Hi everybody, welcome to Writing with Maggie. For those of you who are new to PinkLeo, my name is Maggie. I usually talk about television, representation, feminism, and Latinidad. On this new show, I wanted to explore not just criticizing TV and the media in general and its representation, but I wanted to talk about creating media, creating stories, and I wanted to start off by telling you guys a little bit about my writing journey. Before we continue, please make sure to subscribe, like this video, give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and please follow me on Instagram at PinkLeo_productions for more content, not just about television, but now about writing and creating your own story. When I was in 6th grade, when I was about 11 years old, that's the first time I ever thought about writing as a career. But the first time I ever came up with a story and actually felt the power of story was when I was 8 years old. It was the first time I was separated from my mom. My mom lived here in the United States, and I lived here with her, and then all of a sudden I had to leave the country and go to the Dominican Republic. I lived with my grandmother, my brother, and my dad. And even though I love them and I would go visit them every single year, I was not accustomed to living with them. And of course, I was not used to Dominican Republic in terms of schooling, in terms of being with friends and all my other family members that were there. I was a New Yorker. While I was in Dominican Republic, I actually had a very hard time making friends. It was the first time in my life where I had a hard time really creating a connection between me and my other peers. Most of the young women my age, who I would love to have played with, they were actually doing a lot of chores in their house. They had a lot more responsibilities, and just young women that were just a few years older than me already had children and much bigger responsibilities than just playing with me. So I used to play by myself a lot. And in that course, I decided to invent this character. I don't know, I don't think it was an imaginary friend because I was actually a lot older for an imaginary friend. I was 8 years old, but her name was Emily, and she was supposed to be the perfect friend, the perfect companion. And I invented her, and then I invented this imaginative world where she and her best pal, her name was Amber, and then I later changed it to Amber, had these crazy adventures. That was the first time I ever created a story, like just out of thin air. And I created a very deep mythological story that I won't go into right now in this video, but that's how it all started. Later on, when I came back here, my life was a lot more different, a lot darker and harder, because here in the United States, we didn't have the same resources that we had in Dominican Republic. So a lot of the stories that I created, particularly the story of Emily and Amber, later on became more of, not out of boredom, but I wanted to escape this reality and create my own. So as I grew up, I continued to create this world where Emily and Amber lived. And that story still drives force in me today, and one day I hope to publish it. But when I was in 6th grade, I was 11 years old, and we were starting to think about careers and where we wanted to be. For some reason, I gravitated towards fables, and I wanted to create my own fable. I thought fables were an amazing tool, and I was fascinated by how much we could learn through storytelling. In my public school here in the Bronx, we had a day where storytellers would come in. These were professional storytellers that will come in and talk to us about not just storytelling, but the power of narrative. I became absolutely fascinated with story and storytelling. I really loved people like teachers and my grandma and my aunt who used story for other means, like to teach a lesson, to play a trick. In Dominican Republic, we had a lot of riddles and phrases that were like mini stories that had a different meaning or could teach you a lesson. And I was fascinated by that. The second thing that really put me in the path of writing and creating my own stories was the bonding experience that I felt when I would watch, for example, a film, or I would read a book with someone else. There was just nothing like it. Going back to the Dominican Republic, while I was over there when I was 8 years old, my dad had the only VCR in our community. And he was able to rent movies, and we would always watch them together. We were absolutely crazy for Matilda, to the point where we rewatched the movie so many times, I can actually say the lines verbatim. It was the only time that my dad, my brother, and I would sit together and commune. It was as if through watching this movie, we were able to talk about ourselves, our day, topics that were covered in the film, and it created a bond. And I think that that's where my love of movies also came from. Moving on, when I went to high school, I went to this all-girl Catholic high school, and it was very different from the public schools that I was used to, and I was very nervous and very scared. The first day of orientation, I met this young woman named Chrystal, who I mention a lot here because not only is she a storyteller in herself, because she's an artist, but she's the one who created the pink logo for me. Chrystal and I, and as many of my other friends and I, bonded over our love for some sort of media. For her and I, it was anime. Liking the same shows and books really solidified relationships for me. I actually built relationships just on the fact that we watched the same show or we liked the same books. It was always a gateway for us to talk about darker and deeper issues. For example, in high school, I was fascinated by the show Supernatural. And Supernatural, for me and for my brother and for one of our good friends, whom we all grew up Catholic, was extremely impactful in understanding this other world of religion. And it was the first time that we watched something that wasn't directly aimed as this is the bad guy, this is the good guy. There was a lot of gray area. During my senior year, I took a film history course, and that's what solidified my relationship with storytelling and writing. The whole course centered around how media, but particularly film, affects us. It was what inspired me to then pursue media and media studies in college. That's where I not only learn about the creation of media and the power that it has, but also how I can create my own. Throughout this entire time, I always wrote. Writing for me was an escape. I used to write fan fiction. I used to create little adventures with the characters that I knew and loved, particularly Digimon. I then later started writing my own little characters, still continuing this adventure with Emily and Amber. Writing really gave me this little pleasure of controlling a world that was my own, and it was all me. And it helped me a lot, particularly when my parents divorced and we went through a really rough time while I was still in high school. And I think that writing really made me understand what was happening in my life, even though I was writing about something completely different. This is why after college, I started to teach, and I actually had a class where I taught creative writing. It was one of my favorites. I later started teaching media making, and this is when I worked in community media, and that took a different turn for me because the writing that I was doing for me and my own little pleasure, and maybe I would let one or two friends into my story, became more about how can my writing and my narrative become not just about me, but what is it saying to the world and how can it affect others. And the thing about community media is that it also opened up my mind about the stories that other people told about people who look and thought like me. So if those people have the money and resource to tell a story about, for example, a Latina, without them themselves being a Latina, how impactful would it be if a Latina was behind the scenes? And I talk on this channel on PinkLeo Productions a lot about that effect and how different narrative feels when it's written in a much more authentic and diverse voice. For this reason, I still write. I write every single day. I write essays, I create media, I write stories, I write for television, I write shorts. It's a way for me to not only be creative, but escape this world, but also create a world that maybe we will see later in time. Maybe a world where there is a female president, a world where maybe everyone gets to be who they really are without judgment. Media has become, for me, not just therapy and a way to escape, but a way to empower others. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I not only do I continue to create, but I also help others do the same. I'm gonna put the links down below to my work, but also my services as a creative. I wanna help you tell your own story. So make sure you look at the link down below and tell me what is it that you wanna do, and I will definitely help you get there. In future videos, I'm planning on telling you guys a little bit more about the characters that I like to construct and how do I do that. Also, how to start your story and how to tell your story in different mediums. So please stay tuned because there's more to come in Writing with Maggie. Again, don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, hit the notification button, share with your friends, follow me on social media, all of that jazz, because this is about to get really good, you guys. Thank you guys for watching.